Welcome back. We're discussing US President Obama's revised strategy for Afghanistan. Here on the set, I'm joined by Lisa Curtis, Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. From Los Angeles, filmmaker Robert Greenwald, whose latest film is called Rethink Afghanistan. And from Dubai, I'm joined by Riz Khan, presidential candidate in Afghanistan's elections scheduled for later this year. Before we get back to our discussion, we have results of that chat room poll that we told you about, where we asked, is President Obama adopting the right strategy in Afghanistan? Well, 45% of you said yes, he is, while 55% of you said no, he's not. Pretty close result there, Lisa Curtis. I want to go straight to the phones. We have a caller from London. Ahmed in London, go ahead.
Hi, just a quick question, please, from Mr. Yassini. My question is does he think he's the right person for the upcoming presidential election? Because does he think he's got the relevant experience for, or it's just kind of a joke that everyone just stands there and and we have got approximately 150 candidates for upcoming presidential election. Why is that? I mean, does he think it's the right thing to do?
Okay, well, let's put that question to Mr. Yassini.
Well, thank you very much for a question. Indeed, it's a very vital and important question. I would like to answer it that, well, it is not my ego and it's not my ambition to run for the office. It is the compulsion that I do not see that this is an easy task to be done by any other candidate. And as we sang in logic, that every person does take his own analogy. I have the experience, parliamentary experience, and I had since 7 years work here. I was with my people. I've grown up with my people. I never left my country, and I have the vast majority of the support of the people with me. And my recent election in the parliament showed that I've got almost two-thirds majority of the parliamentarian in order to confirm my reappointment in the parliament. And I'm watching the whole situation, and I know the pulse of the Afghan people. What is important is the dedication and the commitment and the energy. And I'm seeing that in myself, and because, as I said earlier, this is not an ego or ambition, this is compulsion. I do have to serve my country, and I do need to jump into the game, and hopefully we'll be winning that, and then we will be doing some good for the future of the region, for the future of the humanity, and for the future of my own country and my own people.
Mr. Yassini, let me ask you this. One of the major criticisms directed at the Hamid Karzai government is that he's been unable to clamp down on endemic corruption in Afghanistan. What will you do to change that?
Well, definitely I have to the people who will be around me, or my team, has to be very clear and very transparent team. I mean, as we are saying, the dirt in the water starts from the spring. If you have around you some good people, and some people who are committed, and some people who are dedicated to the cause that we want to have a successful Afghanistan, a successful future for Afghanistan, you have to have around yourself good team. I'm sure that President Karzai is lacking that team, and he never tried to bring a strong team around him. And I will be completely different with him and with his strategies. I will have a very clear-cut strategy for the future of my country, which will be transparency, which will be good governance, which will be the capacity there. I mean, there has to be a team with the capacity, which have to have the skill.
Right. Okay, Lisa, we have an SMS that's come in from the United Kingdom, from Chris there, and he asks, what damage is caused to the credibility of Obama's plan by the failure of some NATO members to commit meaningful troop numbers?
Well, I think this is another change that we're seeing from President Obama. I don't think we'll see the same kind of hounding of our European allies for troops. This seemed to be a repetitive activity, going to NATO, trying to get more of our allies to pony up troops, trying to get them to remove caveats which were inhibiting the fighting there. But I think he has decided that's not the tack he's going to take, that he will ask for support from our allies, but that will be more in the form of economic support, support for this civilian surge that I've talked about. So I think we'll see a bit of backing off on demanding more troops, and that's partially why he has committed 17,000 more U.S. troops, and then, of course, an additional 4,000 trainers this fall. So I think there's a recognition that the U.S. will have to take the leadership in this fight. It will look for support from its allies, but I think there's recognition that we do have to commit the U.S. leadership, and that is what's so significant about President Obama's statement on Friday, that he demonstrated he is willing to commit that kind of leadership to Afghanistan, which has been lacking over the last 7 years. Yes, the U.S. has been there, but it has been diverted. Its attention has been diverted by Iraq. So I think he's showing that I'm going to commit the U.S. leadership that's necessary in addition to the economic and military resources.
Robert Greenwald, we have an email here from Jim in California here in the United States, and he writes, I'm extremely disappointed that President Obama has not disassociated himself with the failed policies of the Bush administration. He seems to be embracing failure. If ever we needed a fresh approach to peace, which he promised to deliver, it is now. I remember our own sad Vietnam debacle.
Certainly in my trip to Afghanistan and in talking to many people there and many people in the United States, there's deep, deep worry that it is in fact similar to Vietnam rather than Iraq. We went into Vietnam to, quote, make it secure, to make it safe for the people. And it was a horrible failure. There are worries and there's evidence and there's data to indicate similar and maybe worse problems in Afghanistan, with the sort of unrealistic notion, the naive notion that somehow we can go in with our troops and secure somebody else's country. I think it's a fallacy. I think it's wrong policy, but I believe he's surrounded by enough smart and intelligent women and men that we'll see that change over time.
Do you think he's actually going in to secure the country?
Well, first let me say, I think this argument that this is going to be another Vietnam, it really doesn't hold any water. And I think you find that from people who follow the region closely. You see from the left to the right. I'm from a conservative think tank, but basically think tanks on the other side of the spectrum have the same view, that it is important to remain committed to Afghanistan. Yes, we need to adjust the strategy, and I think President Obama has done that, but it is extremely important for U.S. national security interests to remain committed. The terrorists that attacked the United States on 9/11 are still in Pakistan. They still threaten the regimes of both Pakistan and Afghanistan. And until those countries are stable, U.S. national security interests will be at stake. So I don't think the Vietnam argument has won out with him. Certainly there were people trying to make that argument, but I think his advisors, people like Secretary Clinton, General Petraeus, Ambassador Holbrooke, prevailed in this debate that we do need to remain committed to Afghanistan.
Okay, Robert, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I would be very, very careful about citing think tanks as the experts that we should be guided by, given the disastrous policy that the think tanks have led us towards in several of the wars. But more importantly, security interests are something to be addressed. But Al-Qaeda is in Pakistan, it's not in Afghanistan. Therefore, why are we sending all these troops into Afghanistan, number one? And number two, the core central issue is, how do you protect our national interests? And there's very strong arguments to show that the military solution, putting people in to shoot people, does not make the country more secure and help our national security interests and more receptive to democracy.
Okay, I want to get a quick call in. This is Abdullah calling us from the United Arab Emirates. Abdullah, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. I had two questions, actually. One you already asked, Anand. Okay. So my second question is, the mess Pakistan is, it wasn't in the mess before this war on terror and all that. So who is responsible for the mess which Pakistan in? Who actually holds the baby?
Well, let me ask Mr. Yassini to attempt to answer that one.
Well, unfortunately, on the question of mess in Pakistan, I mean, the geography actually put us in mess. And let me, before coming to question of Pakistan, I would like to talk about my own country first. I mean, we were invaded by the Russian, we were invaded by the other superpowers in the due course of the history, and we were invaded by the terrorists.
Mr. Yassini, sorry, we've run out of time. My apologies. We're going to have to end it there. Thank you to all of you for being with us, and thanks to you out there for watching us. On the next show, we speak to former Senator Chuck Hagel about his initiative to ban all nuclear weapons and his take on American foreign policy under President Obama. Make sure you tune in for that. We'll see you next time.